Oh my gosh, Bits is actually going to another horse show. Bits is on the trailer, Pablo's on with him, and we're going to a horse show. Once we had everything unloaded and set up, I started schooling the horses. I did Pablo first because he's the easier of the two, and I wanted to be able to be more focused on Bits when I got to him instead of worrying about what I still had to do. Although granted, with only 2 horses, it wasn't as much as usual. My horses were not super prepared for the show. Bits hadn't jumped a course in probably 2 months. He jumped a couple of fences a few weeks before the show, but he really hadn't done a whole lot in the way of jumping lately. So, schooling day at the show was the first course he'd done in quite a while. Not ideal, but Bits seems to have a hard time staying sound before horse shows, so since I actually had a sound horse heading into the show, I felt like I needed to take the opportunity and get him here. Pablo also hadn't done a whole lot of jumping lately, but at least Pablo is way less green than Bits, so that wasn't as stressful as Bits not jumping in a while. I was really happy with how both horses schooled today, especially Bits. I was kind of worried about where his confidence would be at given he hadn't really been jumping lately and he hadn't been to a horse show since May, but he handled everything way better than I anticipated, so I definitely was feeling a lot better about showing this weekend. After a long day, we were finally back in the hotel room, and all I really wanted to do was cuddle with my puppy, but he clearly just doesn't love me enough to cooperate. After doing chores and getting the horses fed, I went on with my normal morning routine with Bits and hacked him before the show started. He started off pretty nervous this morning, but he settled down and I was happy with the horse I had when I finished my ride this morning. Also, I'm really sorry I left a lot in of him cantering from this morning, but I'm just kind of obsessed with his canter and I couldn't bear to part with any of the footage, so I hope you guys enjoy. Once Bits had settled down, I showed him some of the jumps, and then he decided to eat part of the plant that was sitting on top of a standard, so that was his first impression to the judge, but I guess at least she laughed. We had a little bit of time before the boys were showing, so I was able to eat some breakfast once I was done hacking Bits, and then I started to get Bits ready for the undersaddle. He was pretty nervous the whole time in the undersaddle, so it was nowhere near as good as the ones he did at the last horse show he was at, but it also wasn't as bad as the undersaddle at his first horse show, so I'll take it. He did end up winning the undersaddle, so I guess it didn't look quite as bad as it felt, or maybe the judge was just charmed by my jump-eating horse.
Congratulations, ghost number 355, look at the bits shown by Stephanie Prince.
And then it was time to jump. Since Bits and Pablo were doing the same division, the second I was done with Bits, I had to rush back to get Pablo ready. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough of us for someone to hold Pablo at the ring for me to be ready to go when I was done with Bits, so I just made it work the best I could. Thankfully, my stalls were really close to the ring. Both boys were really good today, although I did feel really rushed trying to get Pablo ready, so I don't think he was as good as he could have been. I really don't do well when I feel like people are waiting on me, like I literally turn into a nervous wreck, and I think it's something that I need to work on so that when I'm in these types of situations at horse shows, it doesn't affect me as much as it did this weekend. But anyways, considering how much of a mess everything felt coming into this horse show, I'm happy to have just survived the day, and I was ecstatic to have my buddy Bits back in the ring. No! He took my shoe.
He's taking your shoe.
I am all done showing for the day. Both boys were pretty good. Bits was a little nervous just because he hasn't shown since like May, so it's been a while since he's been out, but he wasn't too bad. He was actually pretty good towards the end. He won the undersaddle today and he won the first trip. The second trip he was like more relaxed, but I made like a pretty big mistake, so he was third in that. And then Pablo did the same division as Bits. I didn't undersaddle Pablo, but he won the second trip and then was second in the first trip, so he was pretty good today. He was a little more wild than he was the last show I had him at, and like not quite as rideable today, but he wasn't bad. Now we are gonna go eat some lunch. After lunch, we went to Target so I could get some candy because everyone had candy out at the horse show and I didn't have any, and it was Halloween weekend and I needed some candy, so I went to get some candy. And then we found this little slipper dog toy that Nacho absolutely had to have because Nacho loves to chew on my slippers, so I got him this toy thinking that he wouldn't want to chew on my slippers anymore since he'd have his own, but it didn't work. We spent the afternoon watching Harry Potter and resting in the hotel room, and then we got ready to go feed the horses before we went to dinner. I hand-walked the boys before they ate dinner so they could get out of their stalls for a bit, but I guess Pablo was getting a little worried about his dinner and felt the need to go dumpster diving, but no worries, they did get fed and Pablo didn't have to eat out of the trash can. On Sunday, I tried doing my usual routine with Bits, but it didn't really work out. About the time he started to relax, they brought in a truck and trailer with jumps to work on the course, so I ended up going to the warm-up ring. He was really on edge and spooky today, so I ended up just getting off of him and lunging him. Not a great start to the morning, and honestly, I was considering scratching him from everything because my biggest fear was him not settling and being forced to end the show on a bad note with him. But I came up with a plan and gave it a shot to salvage the day with him. I decided to do a 2-foot warm-up with him so he could get into the ring and see the different course at a smaller height, and I think that was a really good decision on my part. He was the most worried about the jumps that he'd been all weekend, so he definitely needed that extra warm-up. Just getting him into the ring that one time made such a difference for him. He started to breathe and have a brain again, so I finally had a horse I could ride. The rest of the day went much better with him. He finished his baby green division like I had planned, and we ended the show with the best trip that we'd done all weekend. And he won. Pablo is just Pablo. You always know what you're gonna get with him. My biggest regret this weekend is rushing to warm him up and get him to the ring so there wouldn't be an open gate, but it is what it is. He was still good, I just think he could have been a little more rideable, especially with the lead change had I taken the time to get him softer while we were warming up. All in all, it was a pretty good weekend with Bits and Pablo. They're both a lot of fun to show, and I'm happy that we were able to be here. I've been done showing for a while now. I just kind of took my time updating you guys on how things went. Anyways, the show went pretty good today. If we can just get past the morning. The morning was really terrible with Bits. He was a nervous wreck this morning. Today went well with him once he started showing. The rest of it was an absolute disaster and wasn't very fun to deal with. And then Pablo was just Pablo. Both horses won and over fences again today, and then Bits was champion of the division and Pablo was reserve. And Nacho ate one of my ribbons.